Welcome to Harrison Hills Park. This is a park in the northeastern corner of Allegheny County. It's actually the most northeastern part of the county, and is part of the Allegheny Park system. So turned into a park in 1971. This is a chimney for swifts, chimney swifts, the birds. And this is the Harrison Township Leaf Composting Center, otherwise known as the sort of maintenance area for the park. But also, I guess, if you bring your leaf litter here, they'll add it to the giant pile or something. I'm not actually sure how that town's leaf scheme works. But it's a pretty chilly November day. As you can see, it's kind of overcast and gray. We've got a pretty limited palette we're working with here, but we'll see what we can find in the park. I know one thing that we're gonna find is really incredible views. The park is north of the Allegheny River, and it abuts the river as cliffs. So we'll be able to look down into the river valley from a very steep slope, which is pretty sweet. I guess I'm gonna wander this way. Well, we didn't have to go very far at all to see something pretty cool. For those of you who live in warmer climates, this is what's known as hoarfrost or witch fingers. These are ice fingers. This is basically water that's in the ground that freezes and expands and just forces itself up as a little forming icicle. This is the kind of thing that occurs when the ground really freezes, you know, when it moves from being something that water can sit in as water and becomes something that water turns to ice in. This is very much a prototypical December landscape in Pennsylvania. Field that's been turned down for the season. The kind of browns and grays that make up a forest in winter, with the occasional evergreen pines and cedars and such. A couple of hemlocks. They're not here. A big cell phone tower too. We are in the middle of a big bunch of towns and cities, just beyond the tree line actually. There's a bridge, the Allegheny River. This is the view that the park is really known for. This is the town of Freeport that you're seeing right ahead of you, and the Freeport Bridge that you're seeing right in front of you. The bridge was finished in 1965, and it's a cantilever style bridge. You can see that there's two piers that are right in the river itself, and then I think that last pier is like just adjacent to the bank. We are probably about 500 feet above the rest of the valley. We're basically at the same height as, you know, the rest of these hills here, which will become apparent when I do this, which, like, it's actually frightening to me, so it might be frightening to you if you were at all afraid of heights. Let's see if that'll actually focus. We are like seriously a good 500 feet above those train tracks down by the river there. And this hillside just drops off quite precipitously. The reason for that is actually because of the nature of the valley shape. As the river is coming this way, the force of the water cuts into this hillside much more than the flooding water kind of undermines the hill over on this side. So because the water has always been flowing this way, whenever you have a curve in a big river like this, where the valleys are all formed by water and not by some other circumstance that the river is just taking advantage of, if this valley was made by this river, as they all are in Pittsburgh on this plateau that we're on, which you can really kind of see, hey, this is one flat tabletop that has been slowly reduced, and all of this material has made its way eventually down to New Orleans. Yeah, but between here and there, there's 2,000 miles of Ohio and then Mississippi River to contend with, where all this stuff could have gotten deposited. In any case, when you have water coming this way, it'll always carve and make steep cliffs on the outside of the bend in the river, and it'll always have the floodplains on the nice inside bend of the river. I hope you guys appreciate my very mid-90s goth kid thing here with the sweatshirt on the sweatshirt with the thumb hole. It's a good way to stay warm. I couldn't find my gloves this morning, but keeping my hands warm is important. Let's keep walking. This is a pretty awesome view. Maybe also terrifying as I pan this way. Yeah, that's quite something to contemplate. What we're looking at across the way here is a golf course and marina. I think it's called either like Forest Water Park or Forest River Park, but it's a private facility in any case. It's got a couple of houses on the property, which, you know, seems like a weird choice. But no accounting for taste. This is a pretty good example of the sketchy nature of these shale cliffs. You can see that this is just entirely cantilevered out. Also impressive is this tree that has decided that it's going to continue to grow here, even though maybe its substrate has been slowly falling down the hillside onto the train tracks or into the river. I really appreciate the font here. The kind of joyous nature of the person exploring the hazardous terrain is a little strange, but I don't make these kind of choices for these townships. There are some truly magnificent oaks up on this ridgeline. There's one right here. And it's incredible to think about how much weight they hold from the end of that branch out to the end of that branch. You know, this one piece of wood is holding up a span of probably 80 feet left to right. This little creek is actually what drains the fields and forest that we were looking at earlier before we came down along the ridge. It's been slowly forming behind the ridge line here, and this is where the path crosses it, and then it makes its way down precipitously to the river. This is just a super steep canyon. It's a little bit hard to appreciate just how steep. Got a little bit of motion and parallax. Unfortunately, there's some underbrush in the way, but got some river traffic going on. It's a tugboat pushing a single covered barge. I'm not sure if we've gone too many locks and dams upriver and we're out of what is typically called the bathtub. So that boat might have actually gone through some locks and dams already this morning. These are cool. This is some kind of gilled mushroom growing out of this tree. They're old. They're quite hard, kind of like plastic or rubber, like really thick rubber. And there's more of them too, growing in kind of different shapes, or all curled up from age, or both. This is a dead tree, and there's, you know, quite a lot of different kinds of fungi growing through all of it. It's also right next to the cliff edge, so I am gonna go ahead and step back from it now that we've taken a look at these fun guys. Look at these sharp-toothed leaves. Allegheny County's not too heavy on the evergreens, so it's always nice to spot nice big pine. Here at the back of the park, it's a lot clearer where all the water's coming from. You know, this whole area basically drains off in these creeks, and these creeks all eventually head over towards the river valley. So whether they cut through the ridge kind of down that way, or they cut through the ridge further up, it's all these little creeks that have kind of formed this whole landscape, and which contribute to the Allegheny, which contributes to the Ohio, which contributes to the Mississippi, which flows out into the Gulf. I'm on the automobile road back to the parking lot from the sort of ridge line part of the park. I thought I would note Just point out to you guys the little glimmer of civilization up on the hill there. That water tower catching the light. There is a neighborhood up on the top of that hill. It's a little hard to see from here, but we are not so distant from suburbia, despite being in what appears to be pretty trackless wilderness, except for this road, of course. We're about 4 or 5 miles down the river from Harrison Hills. This is the Springdale Power Station, right across from New Kensington on the other side of the river. No real explanation for this home decor here. None at all. No explanation needed, really. This is the Cheswick Power Station, just down the river from the Springdale Power Station in Cheswick, PA. We're still in Allegheny County. The Allegheny River is just running from the left side of the image downriver to the right. We're about 6 miles north of the city limits of Pittsburgh. This is the Pittsburgh Water Treatment Plant in Aspinwall, Pennsylvania. So right across the river is Highland Park and the Highland Park Reservoir. Lincoln, Leamington, Belmar is that hill up over there. And it's this treatment plant and the pumping stations that get Pittsburgh's water up onto the hills, where it then goes into our freshwater drinking system. Yeah, that treatment plant is right here. Over by the Waterworks Mall.